We just kind of went through who we think are the top 5 teams in the NFL. And one of those teams is the Ravens. I guess you kind of tackled that topic in your podcast, whether they should be considered an elite team or not. It's kind of funny because Valdez is a huge Ravens guy, and he said, don't let the record fool you. They're not as good as they were. What do you think?
He loves it when teams are labeled elite. It's one of his favorite things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I've watched them a couple of times. I covered a couple of their games this year, and one of them was the loss to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a clear difference there. I know they've got a good defense. I know Lamar Jackson is electric. They're 5-1, but only one of those teams has a winning record, and that's the Browns, who, even though they're 4-2, have got smacked up by another good team in the Steelers. And I just don't see that this offense has taken another step forward. The one thing about Greg Roman is his first year in San Francisco as the OC with Kaepernick, they had a really good first year. Second year, everybody cut up to him. First year in Buffalo as the OC, really good first year. Second year, everybody cut up to him. Last year is his first year in Baltimore, and this year it looks like they're doing the same stuff and haven't really continued to expand. And then you compare them to like Kansas City, where Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are constantly just like pulling out all kinds of new tricks out of their bag and making it hard for defenses to get a read on them. I just feel like this Ravens team is probably a good regular season team, not really a playoff, like a real deep run playoff team, just because of the fact that when they get in long yardage situations, they can't get out of it. And, if Lamar's not running the ball, they don't have any explosive plays. So I feel like this next stretch here where they've got Pittsburgh twice, the Titans once, the Colts, and I think the Cowboys should probably be a real truth teller for them whether or not they're actually that good or they're just okay.
Mike, you bring up Pittsburgh, and how do they keep finding these wide receivers outside of the first round? Chase Claypool being the latest. I mean, he's had a real impact on that offense with Deontay Johnson going out with injury in the last few games. The Steelers just have a knack for being able to find these guys that aren't graded as like top, first-round prospects, but they always wind up contributing to the team.
Yeah, well, I think that they have a clear vision from their coaching staff to their scouting department, their front office on what attributes they look for, and they do a really great job of projecting them into their scheme where, as we've seen here in Washington, oh, look, he's big, he's fast, and he makes some acrobatic catches. Just because he's great in one system in college doesn't mean he's going to be great here. How many times have they drafted wide receivers that just never panned out? And in Pittsburgh, they do a really good job of projecting and then knowing how to use them according to their strengths. And, it's pretty impressive because, you have not guys that are first round, highly touted, but they wind up contributing like they're Pro Bowl selection wide receivers.
Yeah. A bunch of those guys are second-round picks. Schuster, Claypool, Johnson. Johnson's a third-round pick. Washington, second-round pick. So you're right. They don't reach in the first round. All right, so in terms of the trade deadline, which is November 3, all right, we were kind of kicking this around earlier. Do you think this is going to be your standard NFL trade deadline period where, okay, you might get a couple of bigger names go, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of guys that you're not really, names you're not used to hearing, and they go for 6th or 7th round picks? Or do you think you're going to see some big names, the Julio Joneses of the world, possibly a Matt Ryan? I don't think so, but possibly, maybe Kerrigan goes from Washington. Do you think it's going to be an active period or kind of just, middle of the road like it usually is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it might be pretty moderate, but there probably will be a name or two here, that kind of, catches your eye. I don't know. I can't get a sense about Julio Jones. I know his name has bounced around there, but not sure if Atlanta is really ready to cut bait there. I would be really surprised if Matt Ryan does. But the way we're talking about the Ravens, there's two things that they really need is a wide receiver that can win one-on-one matchups because nobody on their wide receiver unit really scares anybody. And they also really need pass rushing help. And it would be interesting. I don't know if Snyder would pull the trigger and let Kerrigan go up the road and contend for a Super Bowl, but they're not using him. And if you have Kerrigan opposite Judon and they have Calais Campbell in the at the heart of that defensive front there, I think that would make a whole lot of sense. Another one is Ndakwe up in Minnesota. Okay, I know they just traded for him from Jacksonville, but they're 1-5 right now. If they lose one more, 1-6, do they decide, you know what, maybe we can't re-sign this guy, we need to rebuild this whole thing? Do they trade him? Would they be interested in trading to Baltimore, who they've got a good relationship in the past, dealing things? Maybe they can get some picks back. That would be interesting to see right there. Otherwise, I don't know if you're going to see a whole lot of big names flying all over the place, but I think there will be some intrigue.
What'd you make of Miami announcing Tua is going to go after the bye week?
Well, I mean, I think that it makes sense for a couple reasons. He has now had, 6 weeks of running through practices, watching film, really learning how defenses respond to their offense, and now they feel like he's ready. Also, Ryan Fitzpatrick always has like a good 4, 5, 6 game stretch, and then the bottom drops out. So I think they're like, okay, got us 3-3, you avoided disaster, and then now let's go to the kid, and he's got a bye week, so that means 2 weeks to prepare, and also the opponent doesn't really have anything to the Rams. I know it's going to be tough with that defense, but they don't really have anything to go off of Tua in this offense outside of the 2 passes that he threw the other day. So I think that it's a smart move the way they've handled it. They didn't rush him in there. They've let him have almost a full year to recover, and also, another 6 weeks here of studying the offense and defenses, and now they'll roll with them.
Mike, can we get the scouting breakdown from you on Kyle Allen, the Washington football team quarterback? I think, look, he's young, and he can improve, obviously, but I think he's like his ceiling is career backup type of guy you go to in a pinch if you need to win some games. Clearly not the type of guy that you build your team around and that can be a playoff contender with Kyle Allen. What's your scouting report on Kyle Allen of the Washington football team?
Yeah, he's just a guy. He knows the system, but he forces a lot of stuff, and he turns the ball over quite a bit. If you're playing a bad team, then, he'll keep you in it, but he'll also keep the other team in the game as well. If you're playing a good team, you're really going to pay for it. And, I mean, it's kind of, it's funny. His numbers the other day were pretty much Dwayne Haskins' numbers, and Rivera's like, yeah, he gives us a chance to win. Well, I mean, how? I don't see this guy being an answer. If they really want to make a run at this division, why not just roll with Alex Smith? Because at least he takes care of the football. He's knowledgeable of defenses, and, you're not just holding your breath wondering which team this guy is going to throw it to, which is the case with Kyle Allen.
We've never seen a division as bad as the NFC East. All right? We've never seen it. Not that I can remember anyway. And I think we were talking about it yesterday. Do you think that the winner of the NFC East will get to 7 wins? If you set it at 6.5, I think a lot depends on this weekend. If Dallas wins this weekend, I'd say, okay, they could probably get to 7, because I think Dalton and those weapons, I think they'll get better. And, of course, they're going to beat up on some of those other teams in the division. But if they lose and you've got, 3 teams with 2 wins through 7 games, I'm not so sure you get to 7. You might get a 6-10 winner.
Yeah, you very well could. Dallas's defense is so bad that I just don't know that Andy Dalton and that offense can do enough to score enough points to offset what they give up. If anybody's going to win this division, I think it's going to be Philly. They're really banged up, but they've got a lot of fight in them. And so I think that if anybody's able to scratch out 6 to 7 wins, it's probably the Eagles in the second half of the season here. I mean, they went against a defense that holds teams to 15 points a game in Baltimore, and, they came within a 2-point conversion of forcing overtime there, even though they're down to their 6th right tackle and their 5th right guard, and they've got a bunch of no-names at wide receiver. If they can eventually get healthy, I think that they can maybe go on a run here. But otherwise, it's going to be ugly. That it probably will be a losing record winning in the division and hosting a playoff game.
Talking to Mike Jones from USA Today, you say when they get healthy, but it just seems like their injuries continue to mount.
Right.
No Ertz here for a month, no Miles Sanders for a couple of weeks. I mean, the hits keep on coming for the Eagles.
They do, but, when you look at this team, that's something over the years that they've been able to absorb injury, and everybody finds a way to raise their level of play. I just think when you compare them to the rest of the division, obviously it's not going to be the Giants. Obviously it's not going to be Washington. And Mike McCarthy already sounds like he's starting to lose that locker room there. I don't know how that they, turn this thing around there either. So that's why I just say, okay, for continuity's sake, and Wentz, familiarity with the system, if they can, get Dallas Goedert back, if they can get, I don't know if Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson really have anything left, but that would help them a little bit. And again, it's not going to take a whole lot of wins to win this division, so that's why I'll roll with Philly.
The 49er-Patriot game is very interesting. It's very big. Mm-hmm. All right, even though we're only in week 7. But 49ers look like they're starting to get healthier. Now, Mostert's going to be out. That's going to kill them. But Garoppolo looks like, and he was really good last week. If he's healthy, he can make plays. The Patriots were bad, really bad. Now, Cam Newton hadn't played since late September, so maybe he was a little rust there. But, they've never been 2-3 at this point. And the 49ers have to keep pace with the rest of the division, right? So they're 3-3. Right. They got to keep winning because of those 3 teams ahead of them in the division. So what's your thought on that matchup?
Well, I think that the Patriots are going to bounce back and play better than what they did. Look, they'd only practiced twice, I think, in the 2 week and a half span or something like that. And Cam hadn't had a lot of practice. And so I think they'll play better. But you're exactly right that the sense of urgency there for the 49ers is very strong because that's probably the best division in football. You've got the unbeaten Seahawks going to go play the Cardinals, and then that was a big win for them beating the Rams for the 49ers. So they want to gain some momentum here because if they can get healthy, obviously there's some guys that they're lost for the season, but they really have a chance because Kyle's got Sean McVay's number. And so when they rematch them, you think that they have a good shot there. And so obviously Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be highly motivated going back to New England. I feel like this is going to be a really, really hotly contested game. I know that, nothing's perfect on either side, but I kind of feel like the 49ers are going to wind up squeaking this one out.
Mike, appreciate the time as always. People can check out the podcast, Football Jones. It's available on iTunes. It's Mike Jones from USA Today. Thanks, pal.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right, man.
Good talking to you, man.